Hi, it's Dre Griggs of Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss 5 misconceptions you can let go of about happiness. In your retirement, it's very important that you're enjoying yourself, not only with what we're doing, where we're going, but the people we're with, the relationships, the experiences, how we spend our time. We really, when we're thinking about retirement, we're trying to balance this idea of I know that I want to do something different than what I've been doing, and I'm not 100% sure what I want to be doing. When I remember retiring from corporate America, I knew that there was something more for me, something that I really desired and wanted to do. I wanted to be able to give back to help in entrepreneurship, but I wasn't sure what that looked like. I remember when I first started the company, I literally was just making positive videos about any and everything because I just knew I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure how to help. And when you retire, it's one of those things where you're almost sometimes you're running away from pain, but you really want to get into a place where you're running towards pleasure. The reality is, as human beings, we're always doing one of those two things. We're either running towards pleasure or away from pain. And when I sit down and I talk to people, I always try to discuss, well, what is it that we're trying to run towards? What does happiness look like? What does your best life look like? How would you spend your time if money wasn't an option? Or if I could wave a magic wand, what would you want to be fixed? These are the type of questions that you want to ask yourself when you really sit down and think about what is it that I'm really seeking, what I'm trying to accomplish. And then when we sit there, there's 5 misconceptions that I see a lot where we're trying to grapple with happiness, where if I could just fix this one thing, then I know I'll be happy. And the truth is that one thing, even if you fixed it, it probably wouldn't make you happy. I mean, at least for me, I know that that was true. It wasn't as much that I literally needed to quit corporate America. It was that I had this false belief that this company that I'm trying to start on the side while maintaining my job, it's not working. And because it's not working, it must not be working because I can't allocate enough time towards this business idea. And so I said, okay, well, if I leave corporate America, then I have all this time. And then surely everything will be great when I have all of my time back. And then I retired. And then I went to the company and I realized that that wasn't the reason the company wasn't successful. It wasn't that I didn't have enough time. It wasn't that I wasn't working on the right thing. And that is something that I still work with and struggle with because if I see something that needs to be done, it's very hard for me not to do it even if I know my time can be better allocated towards something else. But I wasn't able to actually realize that until I had all of my time and I still didn't have the result I wanted. When you're looking at your retirement, you may find yourself in a very similar situation. And that's our first misconception of happiness. And that is that my happiness depends on others. And this misconception reminds me of the African proverb that says, when there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. And it's just a reminder that our happiness, sure, it could be better if we were able to have more of our time, if we were able to allocate it towards some of the goals and dreams that we have. But at the same time, it's also true that that may not necessarily be what is holding us back. That a lot of times, if we're working on the right things, then we can be happy while we're still at work if we truly allocate our time in a way where we're able to take time off, we're able to still volunteer and go do these other things. But if we're holding everything off because we believe the enemy on the outside is what's impacting our happiness, but the reality is we're impacting our happiness. We're not working, we're not allocating our time toward the right things. As soon as you start doing that, whether you're retired or not, you'll be much happier because you're allocating your time towards the things that matter to you most, your core values, the things that really motivate you. If we are not motivating ourselves, if we are not spending our time living our best life, then it's very hard for us to be happy. And it has nothing to do with someone else. It all has to do with ourselves and what we're thinking about and dealing with on the inside. The second misconception that I often see is that you have to be perfect to be happy. And anytime you make a mistake, then that just eliminates the ability for us to ever be happy in our entire life. Because I made that one mistake 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago. It doesn't matter that my life would be significantly different, significantly better if I didn't make that mistake. I know for myself that I've made plenty of mistakes. There are plenty of lessons that I've learned by making that mistake myself. And a wise person would learn from someone else's mistake. And I've eventually been able to build towards that. But I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. But it does not exclude my ability to still enjoy myself, to still win. The reality is we only lose if we give up. And there's lots of stories about this, but I know that one that really stuck with me is this guy that talked about his friends and how they all had joined this dojo where they all were going to learn martial arts. He tells a story and he talks about how he had friends that were more talented than him, more flexible than him, that were quicker learners than him, but he was the only one that got his black belt. And the reason was because he was the only one that didn't give up. The reality is, if you want a black belt in martial arts, then if you go every single week or every single month, whatever the frequency is, then you will eventually become a black belt. It's just a natural consequence of not giving up, of being consistent. If I want to grow this YouTube channel to 1 million people, I know that as slow or as long as it would take, that if I just keep making videos every single week, that I'm going to eventually get good enough to have 1 million subscribers. I'm eventually going to become masterful enough about retirement strategies to the point that it speaks to a larger variety of people. That there is just some things that are a natural consequence of us continuing to go. And it reminds me of this African proverb that says, however long the night, the dawn will break. And it's just a reminder that no matter what we're going through, that too shall pass. That it could be the worst of situations. And I normally describe it as season, where we're going through our winter season where everything's dying and nothing is growing. But after winter comes spring. If you're going through a recession, it's very tough. We're losing our value on our stocks. People are getting fired. We're feeling very anxious about the overall environment. We're having to make really tough decisions about what we're going to spend our money on. But even a recession, that too shall pass. The dawn will break. That there is this idea that I have to have everything perfect. And then sometimes when we sit and we talk about the numbers, and people are sitting there thinking, if I just started investing earlier, or if I didn't listen to my friend and invested that one bad stock, if I didn't leave that company, I would have gotten a pension from there. There are so many things that we're contemplating as we look back, and we're like, man, if I would have did things differently, then things would have turned out differently. Yeah, of course that's true. Things would always turn out differently if we made different decisions. But does that mean that we still can't accomplish what our dream retirement will look like? Does that mean that we can't be happy? And I would say, well, no, you can still be happy. Whatever you've learned, you're able to share that wisdom with other people. And of course, the dawn will break. It's eventually going to be another sunrise. It's eventually going to be another time of economic growth. It's eventually going to be another spring after winter. That's just how the world works. There are very few decisions that you can make that will impact your life forever. That there is normally going to be a time span of that cost, and then eventually you can work your way back up. Even if you're talking about getting out of debt, I might sit there and think, man, if I did not buy that amazing trip, then I would be able to retire 3 years earlier. And even though that's true, it doesn't mean that you can't retire. That even though it puts you back 3 years, it didn't put you back forever. You don't have to always work. It's just about staying optimistic and allowing yourself to make better decisions as you have better information. And you don't have to be perfect to be happy. Misconception number 3 is you need a reason to be happy. And we don't really need a reason to be happy. I mean, if you wanted to give yourself one, waking up is something we can be happy about. There are studies that talk about people being paralyzed and how it can be a shock and very depressing early on, but eventually they are able to reset to their new reality, and then they're able to keep going, that they're able to be happy. Think back to any negative event that has happened in your life, and you can realize that things got a little bit better as you got some distance between it. That tough breakup, or that tough job loss, or that promotion that you missed, or the relationship that was lost with a really good friend, whatever it was, we know that that was very painful for a time, but we know that after some time we were able to find things about that relationship that really brought a smile to our face. Even though that relationship isn't the way it used to be, or may not be a relationship at all, we're able to eventually separate ourselves from the tragedy. And then we can remember the good times that were always there. Even though I may not date you ever again, I do know that you weren't all bad, that there were times that you made me laugh, and that we enjoyed each other. Even though I wouldn't trust you to watch my dog anymore because you didn't feed my dog and it was sick or whatever, we do still get to laugh about some of these other events that happen. And it reminds me of this African proverb that says a bird will use another bird's feathers to feather its own nest. And if you look at a bird when they make their nest, you've seen it where they just kind of pick up straws and leaves and paper towels and cloth. And sometimes, yes, other birds' feathers that are just laying around. And it's a reminder that we don't really need anything in particular to happen for it to be a good day, for us to be happy. That just existing, just living, just sometimes even, and my wife will laugh at me, I will talk about the idea of being thankful for pain that I have, because that means that my pain receptors are working and I'm able to make an adjustment. That if I did not have the signal that said, hey, the oven's hot, let go, then that means I would burn my hand off because I wouldn't have removed my hand. And that I'm able to take that and use it as a positive. Even if I have an allergic reaction to something, I'm able to say, okay, well, I won't touch that again. And I'm very thankful for that, because if I did not have that signal, then it would just have escalated and it may have killed me, or at least it may have been a lot worse than just having some bumps and some itches and some scratches. Now, we take these negative things, but I really don't feel there's really anything negative or positive with most of our experiences. Sure, you can probably find a one-off where I'm like, man, that's really bad. But I could probably find you one-off where someone is able to significantly alter their life. Like in my mind right now, I'm thinking of the guy that went mountain climbing. He got his arm stuck in the side of the mountain, and he ended up having to cut his own arm off. And that's a crazy, crazy story. But he's been able to tell it. He's been able to build this amazing company, this amazing movement off of that, where he turned something that probably wasn't anything to be happy about into a great and motivating story. I've seen where some people lose a loved one to a disease or to some tragic accident, and then they devote their life to educating and making sure that that doesn't happen to anyone else in their life, where we've cured diseases because someone was motivated because they lost their spouse to that same battle. And so we've seen it where there really isn't anything to quote be happy about, and yet people are able to turn that into a mission, and then their mission gives them purpose, and they're able to contribute to the world in a way that brings them happiness because they're able to positively impact other people's lives. So when you really take a step back and think about it, we don't actually really need a reason to be happy. That regardless of what we're dealing with, there's always something to be happy about in all of those situations. Our fourth misconception about happiness is a constant state. So we're just happy all the time, no matter what. And it's okay for us to have these moments where we're sitting there and we're like, man, it wasn't the best day. It's something that I think all of us have to go through, where maybe we do have to take a break. Maybe we do have to sit and spend some time alone, listen to maybe some of the sad music, write in our journal, whatever that looks like for you. But you'll find that the most successful people are the ones that are able to get over it the quickest. Now, when you look at professional athletes and you look at football, for example, they talk about the quarterback and the idea that they throw an interception. And imagine if you threw an interception for a touchdown. So basically, you throw the ball, the other team catches it, runs it back for a score. They score 6 points, and then they kick it back off to you. So within a 5 minute span, you have to go back out onto the field and continue throwing the football. That you have to forget that that just happened. That's how quickly you have to be able to reset yourself. And the quarterbacks who aren't that good, they're the ones who are second guessing themselves. They're doubting that decision where I just threw an interception. So am I reading their defense right? And now they're hesitating and they're worried, and now they're throwing more picks, and it's just a spiral down where they never were able to recapture themselves. You read about people like Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. You read about the greats, and you see that what makes them great is their ability to get back into the zone. Now, for you and I, we're just talking about happiness, and it's true that there's going to be moments where things throw us off kilter, where something that wasn't great happens and it impacts us. But how long is that going to impact us? You don't have to feel bad about not being happy all the time, but you should expect yourself to be able to recover, whatever that looks like for you. And I would encourage you to work on improving that, shortening that. If it takes you a month, sure, whatever, take a month. But the next time, maybe we could try to take 29 days, or we could try to take 25 days. But the idea is we want to get to that level where we're able to reset almost automatically. That I missed the game winning shot yesterday. We have a game tomorrow night, and I'm not scared to take the game-winning shot tonight because I've been able to reset myself and I'm back in the zone of my happiness, that I remember all of the great things that have happened to me, and I am thankful for my life. Even if it's not always rainbows and Skittles, I'm still thankful for my life, my experiences, the people that I had. Even if the people I'm not excited to have you in my life right now, I'm still thankful because you helped me become a better person. Whatever that looked like, I'm thankful for you, that I love myself, I'm happy with myself, and you were in my life. So that must mean you were a positive influence in some way in my life. And there's an African proverb that explains this very nicely. And it says, a happy man marries the girl he loves. A happier man loves the girl he marries. That's from Ethiopia. And this proverb is just a reminder that happiness is not a constant state. It's not a permanent state, but it's something that is found within the moments and the choices that we make every single day. That if I don't make great choices today, okay, I may not feel that well about the choices I made today. So when I go to sleep and wake up tomorrow, I have to make different choices. And then if I make those different choices, then I will feel happy as a result. And I'm spending my time on the things that bring me joy and happiness. Now, you and I would sit there and say, okay, well, if happiness isn't a constant state, if I don't have to be happy all the time, then it's okay to have a bad day. And what works for me and what I often tell myself is I don't want to have 2 bad days in a row. So if I did something that messed up yesterday or something that happened that messed up yesterday, then I'm going to do my best to ensure that I don't have 2 bad days in a row. It used to be this idea of like, if I miss working out, or if I missed a training, or if I missed an email, I don't want to have 2 bad days in a row because now I'm building a habit in the wrong direction. I want to at least break that where it's almost like an old sport analogy where you don't want to lose 2 games in a row. That if we lost one game, we took that lump, we learned the lesson, we made the adjustment, and we're not going to lose again. And most of the time, if you can keep yourself from losing 2 days in a row, and then you have your normal streak of the good days, then you're really going to feel pretty good about life and retirement. And our fifth and final misconception is that money buys you happiness, where we believe if we get all of the money right, then everything else is just going to fall in place. But the reality is, if you're not spending your time on things that bring you pleasure and purpose, then no amount of money is going to bring you happiness. If happiness is spending time with your family, sure, it would be great to have money to pay for all of my family to go on this cruise with me. Who would deny that? But it wouldn't be great if you had the money and you weren't able to spend the time with your family. If health is important to you, sure, it'd be great to have the money to buy a personal chef. Why not? But at the same time, if you have your money, but you don't have your health, then what benefit is having all the money if you don't have your health? Because health is wealth in a lot of ways. There are so many things that we want to do with our life, and there's so many things that we would enjoy doing that would help bring us happiness. And yes, most of those things have a price tag associated with them. Like nobody's saying that money isn't a part of living in this world. But what we are saying is if you're sacrificing all of these things because you're focusing on getting the money first, it does not always work out in the end. And sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. It depends how well you're communicating with your family. It depends on how well you're communicating with your family and your loved ones. It depends on how long you're sacrificing everything to accomplish this goal. It depends on how high of a price you're paying to accomplish this goal. It depends on how high of a price you're paying to accomplish this goal. That is true that you can provide a significant benefit to yourself and others with money, but it's also true that you don't want to put money over them, that you want to have your love for your relationships and your health and your friends and your family and your contribution where you're not sacrificing any of your core values for the money because you believe once you have the money, then it's okay that you'll be able to buy back everything, buy back your integrity, buy back your family, buy back your health, buy back your friends. It's possible that that could work. But the reality is it doesn't always work out that way. And there's an African proverb that says, if money were found up in the trees, most people will be married to monkeys. And that proverb is simply a reminder that if we're prioritizing money, then we're going to be making decisions to get the money. And sometimes those decisions aren't in our best interest. Sometimes those decisions are just flat out bad choices. And sometimes it's not as big as whether we're talking about happiness or friends and family. I see people that will say, okay, Dre, there's this new IPO coming out. Everybody says it's going to be the best thing ever. I'm going to buy these stocks, and I'll put a little chart and you'll be able to see it where about half of the IPOs that came out in 2024, there's about 100 of them. About half of them had a gain and about half of them had a loss. And I think the gain is as high as maybe 299%, but the loss is equally as high as like 150%. And you can see that, sure, I could gamble on these IPOs because I'm trying to get all this money so that I can finally be happy, but you might lose everything. People investing in Bitcoins and marijuana stocks and AI stocks, that sure, it's possible that you can win on these short-term events, but it's equally possible that you can lose. The IPOs, like I said, there's about 100 of them. Half of them lost money, half of them made money, literally a coin toss, a 50-50 proposition. So it's good to be mindful that if we're tying our happiness to how much money we have, then we are probably going to be making some decisions that are not in our long-term best interest because we believe that once we have the money, then surely I could fix everything after that. Don't be marrying any monkeys because there's money in the tree. Allow yourself to make the right long-term decision that is going to build your money and your happiness in a way that isn't compromising your long-term fulfillment and joy. If you found value in this video, I simply ask for you to subscribe so you can continue receiving valuable insights on how to create your own wealthy retirement system. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy life.